Our coverage tonight begins in southern Nigeria, where President Bola Tinubu has arrived in Lagos State to inaugurate the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, estimated to cost about 15 trillion naira. In a statement on Saturday, presidential spokesman Bayero said the president will commission several projects completed under his administration to celebrate his one-year anniversary. Lagos is the president's first point of call, as other projects commissioning will take him to other parts of the country during the week, beginning Sunday till Friday. Let's now head to northern Nigeria and bring you updates on the Kano Emirate tussle. We understand that the ancient city of Kano is currently tensed as rival supporters of the Emir of Kano, Lamido Sanusi, and his deposed predecessor, Emir Bayero, thronged the streets of Kano, reportedly with dangerous weapons. This is coming hours after Governor Abba Yusuf led reinstated Emir Muhammadu Sanusi II into his official palace, and after the Nigerian police and other security agents in Kano State declared the deposed Emir Aminu Ado Bayero as still the legitimate Emir of Kano. In the meantime, the deposed Emir of Kano, Aminu Ado Bayero, has broken his silence following his dethronement as the 15th Emir of Kano State. Bayero said justice would prevail while urging residents to maintain law and order. He stated this on Saturday at the mini palace where he has been since returning to the state after dethronement. The deposed Emir, however, pledged to follow whatever the law states, saying Kano is too important to Nigeria. We also tell you that the Nigerian police says that it will not comply with the order of Governor Abba Yusuf of Kano State to arrest the deposed Emir of the state, Aminu Ado Bayero, for allegedly disrupting the peace of the state. The Kano State Police Commissioner made this known to newsmen in Kano, the state capital, saying the order of a court in the state compels the police to keep the peace and maintain status quo, pending the determination of a suit challenging the state government on June the 3rd. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
Suit number FHC/KN/CS/182/2024 dated 23rd May 2024, issued by the Federal High Court sitting in Kano alongside all law enforcement agents in the state. Therefore, we are calling on members of the public to know that the police in the state is working together with the military and other security agencies and are with full capacity for providing the adequate security to everyone, as we are committed to carrying out our statutory duties as provided by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. No doubt, the law-abiding people of Kano State are known for a revered cultural heritage and respect for constituted authority, and in this regard, are advised to remain calm, patient, and to keep cooperating with security agencies, as the matter described will be addressed by the court on the 3rd of June 2024.
Meanwhile, security personnel, including police, soldier, DSS, and other security operatives, have cordoned off the Gidan Sarki Nasarawa, where the dethroned Emir is staying, and the current Emir's palace. A quick check at the Kano State Government House also shows presence of security personnel. However, no official statement has been made regarding the reason for their presence, but there are feelers the security operatives were deployed to the 3 places to enhance security. It is believed the deployment of security personnel was necessary to prevent supporters of the 2 monarchs from attacking the palace. Meanwhile, the state governor, Abba Yusuf, and other top officials were still with the Emir Sanusi II at the main palace, while the deposed Emir remained in the Nasarawa Palace. And at this point to discuss this, we are joined by a legal practitioner, Toho Oseroja. Thank you so much, Mr. Toho, for joining us on the news.
Thank you very much.
So we'll look at it from the angle of the law. Now, what is the validity of the Kano State Emirate Council Law of 2024 in all of this that we've been talking about?
Well, if you can you hear me?
Of course, go ahead.
Okay, if you look at it categorically, by virtue of the Constitution, particularly section 4, subsection 7, and if you look at paragraph A of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, you discover that issue of a law emanating from that governs or for the progress of a state is vested on the State House of Assembly. So any law passed by the State House of Assembly, irrespective of the procedure which can be challenged in court, is valid. Is valid, irrespective of the procedure. And if I may take you back, if we go through the memory lane, which is not far-fetched, if you look at what transpired in December 2019, similar incident happened for the dethronement of the current emir. You understand? But that one is as a result of an executive bill. An executive bill is a bill that emanated from the executive arm of government to the State House of Assembly for consideration and passage into law. So, but this one is a sponsored bill from a member of the House. A member of the House, I think from the Dala constituency, state constituency. And though people question the rush, people question the procedure, but it is already a law. And that law remains until it is put in place. I should also know that that law did not only repeal three laws, which is the Kano State Emirate Council Law of 2019. You know, that one was the one that brings about the remaining 4 new Emirate Council, which is the Bishi, you see the Rano, then you see the Gaya, and you see the Karaye Council. So this particular law repealed that law. Then, you know, after that 2019 Emirate Council law created 4 additional Emirate Council first-class emirs. And it also went further to make sure that, well, the chairmanship of the emir is rotational. Unlike, you know, Kano that is known for one Emirate Council. So he said it's rotational, which is, by then, Sanusi was still the emir of Kano, who happens to be the chairman of the Kano Emirate Council. Do you understand that after Sanusi was dethroned,
yes,
that law again was amended.
Okay.
That law again was amended to say, okay, well, the chairmanship will not be rotational, but will be vested on the emir of Kano,
okay,
who becomes the chairman of the council. So these are the laws that were repealed. Then you now talk about the Emirate Council Amendment Law, which is now the Emirate Council Amendment Law of 2020. So the law in question is actually active and is recognizable by law. It's
okay, so it seems as though this is more or less like a state affair in terms of law, its interpretation, and of course what holds sways. So what do you make of the intervention by the presidency? Of course, we're told that security personnel were provided for the deposed emir, and the talk around town is the fact that we had a presidency come to intervene in this matter. So is that an incursion on the law?
Well, for now, you could see that the presidency has actually denied their involvement in this, what is going on. But nevertheless, you can never rule the fact that the police, the security agencies are empowered by the Constitution, are empowered by law to maintain peace and order. So it's somehow, should I say, somehow annoying for people to infer that the presidency must be involved for law enforcement agencies to carry acts their statutory responsibility. And you could hear the statement of the Commissioner of Kano State. You could see that, well, they are just doing their job in line with the Police Act. The DSS, who is a sister agency, they're also doing their job in line with the Police Act. Till the presidency come out openly to, okay, well, this is our stand. That is where you can now fault them if they have the right or not. But constitutionally, issue of chieftaincy issue or local government issue are within the purview of the local, are within the purview of the states,
okay,
of the state government, and it's clearly stated there. And if you look at part 1 of the second schedule, you could see that it expressly stated the powers of the state through the State House of Assembly in making laws that has to do with the running and governance of the state.
Okay.
But however, let me use the word however. when it comes to the issue of insecurity, you must not rule out the federal involvement to make sure that the place is safe and secure for the citizens and the indigenes of Kano State. Okay,
so earlier on you mentioned the other emirates, Bichi, Kano, Gaya, and Karaye. Of course, we know what is happening now. What do you think, as regards the law in Kano State, would be the fate of this Emirates Council?
Well, those councils are creation of law. And those councils are creation of law, which the law emanated from the State House of Assembly. Do you understand? Which is like I gave you the scenario of 2019, because it's also like just like people question the procedure, so also people also question the procedure in 2019. So the foundation was actually laid in 2019 in process like that. So, but sometimes in a rational mind, you say, okay, well, there are pending laws. Why is this express process? But being the procedure does not matter. It has already fulfilled the obligation of what can make it or given the force of law. Do you understand? So by virtue of the repeal Kano Emirate Council Law of 2024, repealing the one that created them, which is an act of the law, those Emirate Councils cease to exist. Okay. And you know, it's like it returned to the status quo before 2019. So those are referred to districts. So they said they should go back and enjoy that status of districtship under the Emirate Council.
Okay. All right.
Yes. So those councils, those for now, as it is now.
Okay.
As it is. Remember, the order in question did not in any way question the existence of that law. So as it is now, by virtue of that law, when they say a law is repealed, that means the law that is repealed does not exist, cease to exist. So those councils cease to exist as it is by law.
Okay. Toho Oserujoa, thank you so much. Oseruwaja, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Now, with the administration of President Bola Tinubu marking 1 year in office, we'll take a look at its collaboration with the National Assembly and how it has impacted on governance. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, brings us the reports.
On May the 29th, 2023, President Bola Tinubu took over as Nigeria's 16th president, with much expectations to herald a new era for the country. The new government promised to work with the parliament, comprising the Senate and the House of Representatives, to bring good governance to citizens. A few weeks after the commencement of the 10th National Assembly, a leadership tussle ensued as the parliament sought to elect its leadership and principal officers. With the ruling All Progressives Congress in the majority, there were disagreements over the nomination of candidates by the party in both the Senate and the House of Representatives.
This will be a guide to you, and I hope you continue from where I left.
The preferred candidates of the president emerged in both chambers.
In a few weeks, we shall be reading out the legislative agenda that will shape the 10th House of Representatives. We shall work closely and interdependently with the executive and judiciary to give Nigeria the good government they deserve.
Some supporters of the candidate said those elected as leaders will ensure a smooth relationship between the legislative and the executive arm of government. However, some critics think otherwise.
Every assembly have their style, depending on who is leading, you know. But so far, so good. There seems to be tilted to the executive in this.
Another important event that played out in the course of the year was the nomination of cabinet members by the president, expected to be screened by the Senate. President Bola Tinubu nominated 45 ministerial nominees and forwarded the letter to the Senate for approval.
Congratulations on your nomination.
After several days of screening, 45 ministerial nominees were approved, with 3 candidates dropped.
Even if we are able to generate 13,000 megawatts today, our transmission infrastructure can only do 5,000, maybe 6,000 at best. So the second major constraint to electricity supply in Nigeria is the transmission infrastructure.
We have no choice but to give him that required support. And I can assure you, if I'm confirmed, in whatever capacity, Mr. President will not regret nominating me.
On the 29th of November 2023, President Bola Tinubu presented the 2024 budget to a joint session of the Parliament for approval. After weeks of dialogue with ministries, departments and agencies, the National Assembly finally approved the budget, however increasing the initial estimate of 27.5 trillion naira to 28.7 trillion naira. With the budget passed and signed by the president, work by the new government was expected to begin. However, several weeks after, a drama ensued as one member of parliament accused his colleagues of padding the budgets. This sparked counter-reactions as some other members of parliament accused the lawmaker of mischief and bringing the image of the Senate into disrepute.
Please, can you allow me to, Mr. President, perusing through the budget. First, we discover some bogus anomalies of repetition. We discovered some senatorial districts in this particular document. Some senatorial districts have up to 120 billion.
I told Ningi in here that he made a mistake, that he should stand up and apologize to us first, then apologize that, look, this even figure that I'm looking for 3 trillion is here.
Abdullahi Ningi was finally suspended for 3 months by the Senate, a decision that did not go well for many Nigerians. This, however, brought the issue of budget padding to a rest within the National Assembly.
Despite the fact that you have multiple number of political parties, opposition political parties, all of them appears to be quiet by force because of fear of lack of not getting, benefits or fear of being sanctioned.
The parliament then went into a recess to engage with members of their constituencies.
It is our duty to justify the trust vested in us by diligently addressing the challenges facing our nation and striving for the betterment of society.
For the 3 years left for the current administration, the expectation of most Nigerians is that the parliament will live up to its responsibilities and ensure that Nigerians reap the dividends of democracy. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonk Joseph.
Many thanks for staying with us. The Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Segun Ajayi Kadir, has stated that the recent 150 basis points increase in monetary policy rates by the Central Bank of Nigeria will further compound the already high cost of doing business in the country. According to him, tightening and increasing loan costs would raise production expenses, limit fund accessibility, and reduce investments and competitiveness in the manufacturing sector. Ajayi Kadir noted that recent decisions by the Monetary Policy Committee would further worsen the sector's challenges, indicated that the monetary stance would constrain investment and expansion, hindering manufacturers' ability to invest in innovative technologies, expand production capacities, or explore new markets. And now to discuss this further, we are joined by Kenneth Ikenwa, a business and social policy analyst. Thank you so much, Mr. Kenneth, for joining us.
Good evening, Lekon. Nice being with you this evening.
Of course, it's nice to have you around too. Now, we see the CBN governor, of course, he has said that the increase in the benchmark rate was necessary to tame inflation and ensure price stability. But then would you blame the MPC under his watch for hiking the rates?
The question here would not be a question of actually trading blames or apportioning blames. Theoretically, this is the ideal thing to do, ceteris paribus, which means if all things were actually equal. But we have to come to terms with the kind of economy that that Nigeria actually is characteristic of. Now, the economy is swinging in the direction of very high regulation. And in as much as regulations and policies are very, very high, it's also an economy that is dealing with the complexity that results from high degrees of leakages and very low degrees of compliance. So I think that at this point in time, one of the things that the CBN should be working on and other institutions is actually looking at these institutional voids, this market voids and these infrastructure voids, that actually enable zero compliance and also enable leakages in the system. Because if you have a good intention and the outcomes are usually bad, then you must go back to the drawing board and actually find out what is wrong. And I think what is actually wrong in this case is that we're designing policies that are not factoring in how best we can strategically manage the leakages in the system and the zero compliance in the system.
So when you say, so Kenneth, when you say leakages, would you say leakages on the monetary side of things, on the fiscal side of things? Because we need to have an understanding of that. Where are the leakages?
The leakages are leakages that are completed by the kind of culture that we have in our country. It is a culture that in one way or the other, I wouldn't want to say that, I mean, on global TV about my country, but we must come to terms with the fact and call a spade a spade. We know that when these policies are made, there are certain other factors, human and non-human, kinetic and non-kinetic, that kind of like facilitate corruption in the system and that makes the regulators look like toothless bulldogs. So these leakages have to be dealt with. You take a look, for instance, at the foreign exchange regime and the foreign exchange market. The policies are sometimes fantastic, but yet again, you find out that people find their way to get these monies from the approved institutions and get it, round-tripping in banking back into the black market. So how do you account for such anomalies? So when we are able to deal with these leakages in every facet of our lives, in every facet of our social structure and milieu, then we can be talking of proper organization for development and economic growth. So that is actually what I mean. And so those in the CBN actually know what I'm talking about.
So is that how other countries have actually dealt with the issue of inflation within their own climes? Because we've seen monetary tightening measures in other countries and they have worked. For instance, we can mention Argentina. Now the economy is recording gradual, appreciable growth. So if you are to be very critical about this, aside of leakages, what other areas do you think we should be looking at when it comes to policy implementation?
Well, I think the first thing we have come to terms with is that we do not compare apples with oranges. All right, comparing a country like Argentina and Nigeria, I mean, is a no-go area. It's like comparing apples with pineapples, and that will not fly. Now, the culture and the context and the policies are different. But the problem I think we also have, or the challenge I think we also have, is that we import policies, import textbook policies, import policies that are imposed on us by some institutions outside Nigeria, and forget that the context and the culture and the contradictions that characterize our society are quite different. So if these things have worked in Argentina, we must come back to the 3 C's. What's our own context? What's our own culture? What are the contradictions that are peculiar and particular to the Nigerian society and system? All right. For instance, in Argentina, it's almost a country that has a mono language. You are looking at a country, Nigeria, that has over 350 different ethnic groupings and cleavages. And you expect that we're all going to sync together in terms of policy. So we must be organic and look at policies that actually deal with the peculiarities and particularities of our own social system, our culture, and our structure. And that way we can actually forge a way forward and work in the path of economic growth, progress, and prosperity, as it were, for all.
Okay, so Kenneth, as it now affects the manufacturing industry in the areas of production costs, fund inaccessibility, lack of support and all that, if manufacturers continue to pass increased costs to consumers, then that negates the plan to stem inflation and have economic stability. So is there something the Nigerian government can do to cushion the effect that these policies are said to be having on the manufacturing industry?
All right, I have a personal bias for the manufacturing industry, especially for the manufacturing industry and the agricultural sector. I believe that those are 2 key sectors that can jumpstart any economy. When you look at the history of developed countries, they started with agriculture and moved to manufacturing, and they are now technological giants, and they find themselves constituted as G7 and G20s and what more. So my bias for that sector is there. I also must say, without any form of bias also, that I think these policies are not particularly fair to the manufacturing sector. And I think they create 3 things that I hope that the CBN governor and the CBN is actually listening to right now. They create information asymmetry. And what does that mean? It means that some people, some manufacturers and some people in the system may have an upper hand in getting information and getting access to funds that will put others at the detriment in the same market. Secondly, they create a fallacy of composition. It begs the question of the economic logic that actually drives these policies. And what does the fallacy of composition mean? It means that when you're designing these policies and you're just having the financial market and the financial system as a pivot, forgetting that there are other systems and other sectors, the real sector, that actually drive the economy and create employment and guarantee the employment, full employment of all factors of production, there is a problem. Lastly, if we do not deal with these policies before I come to what the central bank should do, it will continue to perpetuate the good/bad paradox. Now, what does that mean? These policies are actually good. But if there is a fallacy of composition, they seem to be good for a particular sector or some sectors to the detriment of the real sector, manufacturing and agriculture.
Yeah.
Finally, what should the central bank do? I think the central bank should isolate the manufacturing sector and the agri sector and follow the strategy of implementing what I call strategic quantitative easing, and use the commercial banks as agents to monitor what is disbursed to these firms to ensure that these loans are recovered from them. These loans can be single unit interest loans or they can be zero interest loans. This way, the manufacturing sector will perform and we can systematically use quantitative easing, supporting manufacturing firms to fight inflation and make sure that there's price stability across the length and breadth of the country.
Well, it's always nice engaging you, Kenneth Ikenwa, business and social policy analyst. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. We appreciate that.
Always my pleasure. Shalom.
Now, in a bid to tackle unemployment and foster economic growth in Nigeria's northeast, the Borno State government and the University of Maiduguri are set to deepen their collaboration, focusing on exploring new entrepreneurship avenues. This was during a public lecture organized in honor of the outgoing Vice Chancellor of the University of Maiduguri, Professor Aliyu Shugaba. News Central's Umar Kirawa completes the reports.
The public lecture, which featured a renowned university don, Professor Jibrila Dahiru Amin, offered a platform for the exchange of ideas and deliberations on strategies to enhance the collaboration between the government and the institution. The Borno State government and the University of Maiduguri expressed commitment to collaborate to develop entrepreneurial skills and support the establishment of new opportunities.
People don't know. When I was director of Lagos Polytechnic, I invested in livestock development, poultry. People are saying there's no more, especially aquaculture. Land is not a limiting factor in the investment. I think we can work. That means its environment is also secure. If we are prudent enough with 1 billion naira, we can generate more revenue. And I'm ready to partner with the University of Maiduguri. Apart from our existing Center for Entrepreneurship and Enterprise Development, we have also secured a donation in terms of a building worth over 1 billion naira from the chairman of BOA. And that is opening up a whole lot of channels of collaboration with the university.
One major issue of concern raised during the public lecture on leadership challenges in Nigerian universities is the need for adequate manpower and more funding.
Nigeria can do with many more universities, but we need adequate manpower and proper funding of universities to enable them really achieve their mandate.
The University of Maiduguri is said to generate 12 megawatts of solar power to tackle inadequate power supply to the institution as well as the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital.
If you cannot work 247, you cannot do it. I don't know whether the university will accept me to serve as the Vice Chancellor after my government. But honestly, this is one of my missions.
The university community celebrated the outgoing Vice Chancellor, expressing hope for a successor who will continue the positive development at the institution. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umar Kirawa.
And talking about energy transition, Nigeria's federal government has been tasked to work towards achieving climate justice in its quest to implement an effective energy transition from fossil fuels to cleaner energy. This was during a dialogue in the nation's capital, Abuja, where energy experts reviewed the nation's energy transition roadmap, making recommendations to support government's efforts in reducing its carbon footprint. Amadin Uyi tells us more.
The call for a global energy transition to cleaner energy from fossil fuels has been on the front burner in recent times. While much progress has not been made on the African continent, energy experts say Nigeria must join this conversation and put meaningful efforts to align with other nations worldwide.
As we know, fossil fuels, oil and gas, coal, has shaped our societies for over 2 centuries. And we are at a point where there is global conversation about the nature of energy systems going forward.
As experts converge on Abuja to review Nigeria's plan for an effective energy transition, they say government must address the nation's peculiar situation and focus on energy justice.
We are not energy competitive. And now we are talking about transition. And transition is not just about changing sources of energy. It's going to affect businesses. There is going to be loss of jobs. There are going to be dynamic changes in the dynamics of the economy. And it is more so in an economy like Nigeria's, which is monocultural, which is oil dependent. So that brings us to the question of social justice, social equity in this transition.
The situation in Africa and Nigeria especially is a little bit more complicated because we are one of the least emitters of carbon. And so the focus is not so much on decarbonization for us, but on the justice question, the climate justice question.
They said despite efforts aimed at scaling down on the use of fossil fuels, government must develop its own blueprint to transit into cleaner energy.
We're trying to make sure that we are able to support the government to put in place, policies and programs that really ensure that the energy transition is just for Africans, and for Nigeria especially.
The energy transition plan in Nigeria is underpinned by a rapid scale-up of fossil fuel production, especially natural gas, which is to serve as a transition fuel, up to 2030 and beyond, really.
They are calling on Nigeria's government to join the global efforts aimed at reducing the world's carbon footprint by 2030. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Coming up on the news, Burkina Faso's military rule extended for 5 years. We'll bring you details of this and the other stories in a short while. Don't go away. News Central now continues in West Africa, where Burkina Faso's military regime in power since a 2022 coup will extend its rule for 5 years under an accord adopted during national consultations on Saturday. Colonel Moussa Diallo, chairman of the organizing committee of the national dialogue process, made this known after the talks. He said the duration of the transition is fixed at 60 months from July 2, 2024. In East Africa, the South Sudanese President Salva Kiir is being endorsed as the Sudan People's Liberation Movement Party candidate at a rally in Juba. Voter registration operations for the December elections in South Sudan are set to begin in June. The elections, scheduled as part of a peace agreement that ended 5 years of civil war between rivals Salva Kiir and Riek Machar in 2018, have been postponed several times.
Is an honor not only for me, but also for all the SPLM party members across this country. On behalf of the SPLM members, I have accepted this endorsement. The people of South Sudan must be given the chance to choose their leaders at the end of this interim period. However, some parties to the revitalized peace agreement and international partners do not share.
From other continents, we tell you that U.S. President Joe Biden says he's determined to keep U.S. troops out of the war in Ukraine. Biden made this known in a commencement address at the U.S. Military Academy West Point's 2024 graduation ceremony, while adding that the U.S. is standing strong with Ukraine.
There are no American soldiers at war in Ukraine. I'm determined to keep it that way. But we are standing strong with Ukraine, and we will stand with them. We're standing against a man who I've known well for many years, a brutal tyrant. We may not, we will not walk away. But Putin was certain that NATO would fracture. I said to him in Switzerland that you want the Findalization of Ukraine. You're going to get the Findalization, you're going to get the NATOization of Europe. He had a brazen vision, which we stepped up and stopped. Instead, today, the greatest defense alliance in the history of the world, stronger than ever. Finland and Sweden are our newest members, and they're tough. In the Middle East,
we talk business now. Zimbabwe's telecom regulator has approved the licensing of Elon Musk's Starlink, allowing the satellite unit of SpaceX to operate in a southern African country. This was announced by President Emmerson Mnangagwa on Saturday. According to the president, the decision is expected to result in the deployment of high-speed, low-cost, low-Earth orbit internet infrastructure throughout Zimbabwe, and particularly in all the rural areas. A World Bank report in 2021 said only 34.8% of Zimbabwe's population had access to the internet. The Starlink approval comes amid a government crackdown on unregistered users smuggling Starlink kits from neighboring countries like Zambia. We also tell you that Anglo American was encouraged by key shareholders, including BlackRock, to continue engaging in talks with BHP Group over its proposed £38.6 billion, that's about $49.18 billion mining merger. This is according to a report by Reuters on Saturday. BHP, the world's biggest listed mining group, now has until May 29 to make a firm bid for Anglo American, or it will be forced to walk away for at least 6 months under the UK's takeover rules after it was granted a 1-week extension on Wednesday. BlackRock was among a handful of investors that encouraged meaningful negotiations with BHP. Two other significant shareholders, 91 and Sanlam Investments, also backed the decision to extend talks despite concerns about a deal structure that requires Anglo to spin off its stakes in its South African platinum and iron ore units. It's now time for sports news with Favor Itwa.
In sport, Nigeria's representative in the Basketball Africa League, Rivers Hoopers, lost to AS Douane 57-63 points in their first game of the playoffs at the BK Arena in Kigali, Rwanda. The Kingsmen had a slow start, trailing by 14 points at halftime. Hoopers staged a comeback in the fourth quarter, winning 29-13 but was not enough to get a win. Douane's Aruna Amadou Abdullahi had 16 points, 4 rebounds and 2 assists. Rivers Hoopers duo of David Eke and Abel Ofia had 11 points, 3 rebounds and 9 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist respectively. The game being a seeding game had little significance as Hoopers will play in the quarterfinal on Monday against US Monastir, who defeated Petro de Luanda 70 to 67 points. This will be the third time the Kings men will play the Tunisian side, having won one and lost the other in the Sahara Conference. And now to athletics, where Kenyan athletes reigned supreme at the 10th Okpekpe 10-kilometer road race on Saturday in Okpekpe, Edo State. Edward Zakayo Pingwa and Gladys Wabunka emerged as champions in the men's and women's categories. 22-year-old Pingwa delivered a stunning performance to win the race in a time 29 minutes and 31 seconds. Compatriots Isaac Kimpemboy, Alex Olitipi Korio came second and third respectively in elite men's race. In the women's category, 28-year-old Wabonka showed her potential by claiming victory in a time of 33 minutes and 5 seconds. Regina Wamboy and Sheila Cherotich placed second and third respectively. Aside the professional athletes, former presidential candidate Omoyele Sowore and former Edo State Governor Adams Oshomole took part in the race. The first, second and third place athletes got $15,000 US, $8,000 US, and $5,000 US respectively.
The secret about my success is only training, discipline, and you have to put hard work in every corner and be disciplined.
Just the training at hard, nothing other. The challenge is just only hills. There is also a lot of hills.
Amazing one. It's very tasking, but I completed it, and that's the most important thing. As I said, there are two categories of people running a marathon. Anybody that finishes is a winner, but the people that take first are the prize winners. So I may not get a prize today, but I was able to do what I wanted to do, which is finish this in about 1 hour, 5 minutes. Okpekpe 10K is no mean feat.
And now to football, former Nigerian manager for Benin Republic, Gennett Rohr, has named his team to face Super Eagles on the 10th of June. In the squad are 19 professionals playing at various clubs in Europe and 6 home-based players drawn from local league. Ross said at a press conference that he was confident the boys would beat the Super Eagles. The team is expected to leave Cotonou for Abidjan on Monday and train on the same pitch where they will face the Super Eagles. The Super Eagles played some of their matches at the Felix Ofe-Boigny Stadium during the African Cup of Nations earlier this year. And to wrap up sports update, Alejandro Garnacho and Kobe Mainoo were the match winners as Manchester United secured a stunning 2-1 victory over neighbours Manchester City to leave the 2024 FA Cup and leave Pep Guardiola's double dream in tatters. The Red Devils were organised and menacing on the break from the off and stalled in front on the half-hour mark when Garnacho capitalised upon a shocking miss-up between Stefan Ortega and Josko Vardiol to roll the ball into an empty net. City fought back in the second half and ensured a nervy ending when Onana's weak attempt at the save on 87 minutes could not keep out Jeremy Doku short at the goalkeeper's near post. However, United held on and sealed a memorable victory. FA Cup glory sees United add the second piece of silverware under Ten Hag, following up their Carabao Cup win from last season. He also sees Manchester United put a disappointing league season behind them by sealing Europa League qualification. Congratulations to the Red Devils. And that wraps it up on Sports Update. I am Favour Itwa.
And that's all at this hour. But before we go, we take a look at some of our top stories. We told you that Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu begins nationwide project inauguration ahead of his 1 year in office. Deposed Emir Bayero breaks silence, says justice will prevail as police is set to enforce court order stopping dissolution of emirates. Finally, we told you that Burkina Faso's military rule is extended for 5 years. You can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. And you can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onabanjo.